So they just want to talk about the ascension. But I also am hearing that some different star beings will come through. I think mostly the Lyrans today and the Arcturians, because they're the ones who are most prevalent or here right now. So what I do in my channeling is I go into an altered state to just go through my process a little bit. And one of the things that we want to cover today is very, very important for you as light beings who dwell in the frequency of duality. One of those is as we move into the focused energy of light codes, we will be bringing more of those codexes through. And as you know, many of those codecs, they do come through from the light frequencies. But what many people do not understand is the light sun frequencies hold certain codecs. And we also utilize the codex that comes from the geometric system. These codes come through the sheets or the tubular structures, for lack of a better term, like your fiber optics. What we mean by this is that those light codes come through for the matrix of creation. And many of the understanding of the codex, many feel that is just through the planetary systems and just through the sun and emanations from those things. We tend to focus more on the creator source energies from the point of creation, which we will call the 0 point field. In the 0 point field, right under the quantum, there is a shift in frequency. We are seeing when that starts to come through, then the light codes come through and they are organized. And when they're organized very specifically depending on what is being brought through, why it is being brought through, and who it is being brought through for. That is how we actually begin to create new systems, new planetary systems, new stars, everything. Because the universe is a geometric mathematical formula. And because of it is a mathematical formula, it has to be created through the geometric / mathematical formulas for each and every system. Now, we only work under the laws of the universal system that you are aware of. There are other systems that are separate or we'll say different from the current system that you are more aware of. So we will stay within those parameters to help you understand those parameters. Mhm. We are here to help you open up to those frequencies. As we move forward through the timeline, there's a lot of shifts and changes that are happening. Many people talk about the timeline split. When we see the timeline split, we see it split into a lot of different things. So it is not as cut and dry, but it's enough to understand it to make it cut and dry. This is the higher, this is the lower. And that is easy for the human to understand. So we will talk in those terminologies, but that is not the complete formula in truth, because the complete formula is that there are many dimensions connected to your dimensions, and each one are going through their own planetary system. So, like the systems, like the plant systems that you have on your planet, and the fairy realms, and the other systems that are connected to your planetary system, they're also going through their own evolution and their own ascension, and everyone is kind of experiencing it together because it's connected to the what you call the earth planetary system. And because of that, people see it as one Earth will go one way, the other will go the other way. And that has been a lot of thought within many ages, that there's going to be a higher frequency and a lower frequency. And that is fine enough. We will just keep within those parameters. But just so you know, there's a limitation to those parameters because there's so much more than just those parameters. There's actually these other dimensional systems that are also evolving as well. And the planetary systems, there are other Earth-like planetary systems that are also going through their own evolution. And what you want to understand is when people are talking about timeline splits, they are talking about consciousness splits. And that's more important than a timeline. It is more of a consciousness experience and expression. And the reason that we delineate a little bit between these two is because when you are looking at linear time, you only live in linear time. And that is not the perspective of a higher frequency. From the higher frequency, there is no linear time, so you can't really have a timeline split because there is no time and space within that sphere. Understand the whole perspective and then try to bring it down into what is being channeled and brought through for the system today, for the other beings. And it's all okay. It's not right or wrong. We don't see it that way because that is understandable that they see it as a timeline. And we do utilize those words because in time and space, it will feel like there's a different shift in energy frequency. The next few years are very important for your own evolutionary system. This is because as we move into the next evolution of your species, we are talking about where you will fit within the consciousness timeline, but not quite, the consciousness. And as the evolution of the species starts to happen, there becomes a new geometric pattern and a new vortex type pattern that will activate within each and every individual system, meaning the body, mind, spirit complex, or the body, the humanish self we talk about, with the consciousness as well, because you cannot really delineate between the consciousness and the body if you are fully aware. Now, if you are completely unaware and you are in that space where you are so numbed out with drugs, alcohol, gaming thingies, those and TVs and all those other distractions, you're still in the place of unawareness. But those of you who are open to be in the awareness, you will experience this as a full consciousness, which is what the evolution is really about. So when they're talking about timeline splits, they are talking about how the evolution will start to happen to the consciousness of everyone who is connecting to that specific consciousness. And we will give you an example of that. The example of that is that each consciousness that comes through, and each being that comes through, you are all feeding the same consciousness. So if you are feeding the consciousness of oneness and creation and love, then you are all feeding the same consciousness energetically, obviously. And the people who are living in a lower frequency, they're feeding a different consciousness of fear and control, we'll say. So, depending on what you are feeding within your own consciousness, and also the percentage, it does not have to be 100%, but the consciousness that you are connected to is what is being fed to you and being fed back. And then we have the collective consciousness and the sacred geometric frequency that is connected to that consciousness. And because of that, the connection itself will open you to a different energy field, and it will keep shifting and transmuting into a different consciousness incrementally. So if you are feeding a higher frequency, you are going to be receiving different light codes than people who are still stuck in another frequency. And we don't want to put them in too many boxes, because we find that when we try to make it like, this is the box of this frequency, and this is the box of this frequency, and this is the box of this frequency, then people tend to want a certain frequency, and then they are striving for it more from their ego self, instead of moving through it and being more in the heart center, or in the collective energy of love, is what the truth is. When that you will say heart center, but we say the collective frequency of love. When you are connecting more to the collective frequency of love, it's going to be a different experience. No experience is wrong or right. It's hard for us to see that, because that's not a linear thing that we really perceive. But what we will say, because we, as the Lyran collective, have actually moved through the dimensional frequencies similar to yours, we also understand that there can be a lot of give or take, yes, no duality of not always understanding what is going on and where you fit. Because when you are moving from a consciousness of duality in the planetary system that you're in, and then you move into a higher connection and consciousness frequency, you're going to experience things differently. And you may falter between the two. It's not like today you are going to be at this frequency, tomorrow that frequency, and then you'll never be in another frequency again. It is always a movement of energy, just like all things in your universe, under the laws of your universe. There is always a flow, there's always a polarity, at least when we talk about this specific time space continuum and the frequencies. So, because we want you to understand that these codexes that people are saying are just coming from the sun, or coming from the the galactic weather systems, it is so much more. And when we do the activations for you, because we are helping you get to a different consciousness that is beyond what is being given to your planetary system now. And that is very, very important to understand, because when we activate your system through the core system of the 0 point energy into the um, galactic frequency of sacred geometry, as you would call it, although it is a moving energy system and it looks more like a vortex, but we'll just use that. And those things are coming through the light codes, are bringing in certain energies to each and every individual, and it is specific to you. Where the light codes that are coming from the sun, those light codes are for the planetary system and any humans that are open to receiving those codes. So there are many codes that are coming through. It is easier to experience the codes that we are talking about, and we will go into more detail in the future about these codes. But when those codes are coming in, they're activating the system of each individual human beyond what you are receiving from the codexes, from the solar flares, the sun itself, the moon itself, and the other planetary systems that are activating within the human realm. So what we want you to understand, that there are levels to this, and consciousness, the consciousnesses that are connected to the opportunity to transform and transmute those lower frequencies, these codes will do that, as well as your own awareness and your own availability to let go of things. We are moving from 3D to 5D, in basic terms, we'll say, but that's not really correct, but that's good enough. for your terminology. But when you're moving from 3D to 5D, you are actually being asked to let go of duality, to release, to let go. That is through the surrender process, through letting go, through the awareness process, through the center process. And we understand that there are times that you get pulled into the polarity, which is normal, which is understandable. We have seen that and we get that. But we are also here to help you reactivate some codecs so that you can be in that centered space and that you can bring that higher frequency, that higher consciousness forward and bring it through love and creation and connection. Because when you are working through these codexes that come through from the geometric energy system, from the 0 point field, it is a divine code as opposed to just a light code, although they do have some light frequency to them. And when you hit at such from the quantum into the 0 point, which is right at the at the precipice of the quantum, is the 0 point, and that is when matter, or not matter in always the way that you see it, meaning matter like the physical, systems, the physical computer. It's not always that kind of matter, but we'll just use the word matter, meaning but it's always those. It is a the rods itself are being created. Those are the sheaths. They are being created from a place of the quantum. And then once they hit the 0 point field, they have opportunities to become and to calibrate to whatever is necessary and when it's necessary and how it's necessary. We have many beings who actually guide this system and work with this system and create from this system. So it is a very fine line between what you would say matter and what we are talking about. It's not exactly matter. And when you talk about the quantum realm, you're talking about particles and waves, right? That's a particle and wave. Well, we are talking about the particle of the particle of the particle and the wave of the wave of the wave, meaning it's even more incremental and more less, you're unable to see it with your instruments at this time. Then once you hit the photon energy, and that is the light energy, that is as you move down through awareness, there's a photon energy. And when the photon energy, when that hits, that's when you're more likely to experience physical matter. So we have to bring those codec from the quantum into the 0 point through different particles and waves, we'll call it for lack of ease of explanation, into the light photon readiness, and then it shifts energies so that you can accept them into your energy fields. We are the scientific collective that help to build some of these geometric grids. And as your awareness starts to move into the understanding, and we know that we fed you a lot of information, but what we want you to be aware of is that this is an even more divinely created codex for the collective consciousness, and you as individuals who are part of that activation. And every time you experience any activations that are channeled, we wanted to make sure that you understood the complexity of this creation. And in truth, it is simplified. It may seem complex to your mind, but it's a simplified energy system because we don't need to make it really complex because the energy knows what it's doing. Once it's coming from the creator, the quantum, it then moves into the 0 point and then it gets distributed depending on what is necessary, needed, and the opportunity at that moment. Who is it gathering as a collective? Who's ready for the next codes? So, why we are explaining it this way is so that you understand take the codes from the light sun and a moon and other planet galactic energies that there is an understanding on your planetary system that that is what is happening. Absolutely accept those codes as well, but there are so many more codes that are being misunderstood in some ways, and we're just bringing this forward because we want to help you allow those codes to activate within your system, especially over the next 3 years. This is a divine time of creation for your planetary system. And the more beings that are holding the highest frequency, and that is not highest better, it is just a different octave of energy systems that we have talked about before. But this is important that we do more collective codex activations. It is very important because as you evolve, you are going to help the whole planetary system move into the consciousness that is in the timeline, best word, that is in a coherent, synchronized energy system for the individual and the collective. In this moment, we are just surrounding you and holding space for you to help you integrate and embody this information, as well as intellectualize, because we understand that that is part of your system. But there is a very specific scientific method that has been happening since the quote dawn of time, since the quantum and the creator had thought. This is unique in the respect that your planetary system is unique, and what you want to understand, it is been taken from a blueprint that has already happened. We end this transmission now.